Hello guys, welcome back to the channel, hope you're doing well. Today I'm just filming a very quick video to give you an update on my court case and how that's all going. I have had my hearing, so let you know what was said there and what happens next. So let's get into it. Okay, so if you haven't seen my previous video on this case where I'm being taken to court, I'll put the link up here or wherever it is. Far more information there, but I will give you a very brief recap for those of you who haven't seen that video. In 2021, we sold a 2007 Audi Q7 on 146,000 miles for £6,495. The customers came and collected the car before it was ready. It needed a door hinge changing because the check strap had broken, and it had an air suspension light on the dashboard, and we wanted to rectify those before the customer took the car. They insisted on taking it. They were going to bring it back the next month for us to look at it. The car didn't come back to us then for 3 or 4 months. When it did, we had it for a couple of weeks, maybe even 3 weeks, while we tried to find the right air suspension pump. In fact, we changed an air distribution block. That didn't solve the problem. We then changed, or tried to change, an air suspension pump. Came from TPS. Wasn't the right one, so we had to order another one. We might have even ordered 3 in the end, until we found the right one that had the right connections that would fit on this system, on this car. So then that was repaired. Door hinge working beautifully. Air suspension all working perfectly, went up and down, no warning lights, everything was hunky-dory, it held air, etc, etc. Customer was very happy to come collect their car. I'd said, you know, let me get you a bottle of drink or something. They wanted gin, so I bought them gin, chocolates and a card to say thank you for your patience. That went off and all well and good. We thought we'd solve this and that was the end of it. But 3 to 4 months after that, I then started getting messages saying, oh, the car's failed again, you never fixed it properly. And I said, okay, so what's happened? And it turns out that the air suspension had lowered itself and wouldn't go back up. I said, okay, I don't know what that is. It sounds like a different fault. It's not a fault that we had before, but if it's the air suspension pump that's faulty, if it turns out to be that, we'll chase up the supplier, we'll get it changed, you know, no problem. Just get it back to us, we'll look into it and we'll see what can be done. Despite you being out of warranty and out of the Consumer Rights Act period by then, because it was 7 months down the line and about 7,000 miles later, I think. I did say, look, if you can get it to us, I'll try and help you out. They didn't want to do that. They wanted us to collect it, but they're about 4 hours away. So I basically said no. They said, we're going to start getting in touch with you by letter, getting official. I said, okay, that's fine. So they started doing that and they wanted £3,000 for a repair, to which I said, that seems wholly unreasonable. That's half the price of the car. And I don't even know what's wrong with it. You know, we haven't had a chance to look at it. They carried on saying it was our fault, we never fixed it properly and we should have done X, Y, or Z. Still not knowing what was wrong with it, haven't seen the car. I said, I'm not going to do that. You know, if you're not happy with the options I've offered you, bring it to us, we'll fix it. Or at least look into it for you and probably fix it. Then you'll have to take me to court, which is what they did. So yeah, I've now been taken to court for £7,000 or £7,950 or whatever. £500 more than the car was sold for. And I still don't know what's wrong with it, but they want a full refund, even though they must have repaired the car because it's been MOT'd again, they're still driving it around, etc, etc. And the point was that we had a hearing coming up towards the end of March. I've now had that hearing, and the first point that my lawyers or legal team, logistics, had pointed out was that the person who bought the car or was bringing a claim against me was not the person who was named on the invoice, because this person, and it was a woman actually, I know we had a lot of people saying, oh, this guy, it was a woman actually, and she had put down, I thought it was her mother's name, but it wasn't, it was her auntie's name as the owner. And I thought, which I said in my previous video, that was because the auntie had lent her the money to buy the car. Well, it wasn't until my video came out and one of them, the member of the sales team who'd sold her the car, saw the video and he said, oh, it wasn't because she borrowed the money, it was because she was going through a divorce and she wanted to hide the money or the asset from divorce lawyers who might try and take the money from her. So she was actually trying to hide the fact that she owned this car, which to do so, she dragged her 95-year-old auntie into the equation, and now, you know, her auntie is the legal owner. So it's all quite messy and, yeah, just a nuisance. But we had the hearing, which was set out for a half-an-hour hearing. My legal team, logistics, had called me prior to that and said, it's only a half-an-hour session, so it can't be, a full hearing. It must be a preliminary hearing in regards to some details or some issues. And their opinion was that either the judge was going to say this has to be thrown out because it's not the right person, or they're going to have to make a new claim in the name of the auntie, etc. So sounded fairly positive, but we won't know until we have the hearing. Of course, I've had the hearing now, and despite being scheduled for half an hour, it only took all of 10 minutes really. And the first thing the judge jumped to was speaking to the claimant and saying, the biggest issue we've got here is you don't own this car, do you? And you don't have a right to bring a claim against me. To which she replied, well, I do own it. It is mine. We just put it in my auntie's name because we run her to the shops, etc. Which I don't think the judge was buying whatsoever. Obviously, it's why would you do that? You can drive your auntie to the shops without the car being in her name. So we went through that and explained that she would have to either cancel the claim and make a new claim in her auntie's name, or get her auntie to join as a party of this claim, fill out forms and get her involved, to which she kind of objected and said, well, she's 95 years old, how am I meant to do that, etc. And the judge said, well, I've given you options. These are your two options. You either make a new claim in your auntie's name, or you get her to join as a part of this claim, which is what I think she was going to do. It's all online forms, but the claimant was complaining that it was unfair to be asking a 95-year-old auntie to be getting involved in this legal matter. But I feel like that's not really my responsibility. It's not the judge's responsibility. She's the one who got her legally involved so that she could hide money from another lawyer. So, yeah, the judge wasn't really buying it, I don't think. Cut her off a few times saying, like, I don't want to hear your complaints. These are your options. These are the legal requirements you'll have to do if you want to bring this claim forward. So the judge said he would adjourn it for 28 days, for a month, to allow her to get this stuff in place, and we would go from there. The judge did make a point, interestingly, of saying, are you certain that you have a claim to bring here before you waste your time and get your 95-year-old auntie involved? Was a repair ever made to your car? To which she said, oh no, they didn't ever repair it. It was never fixed. They didn't fix it properly. And as a point at which I interjected and said, do you mind if I interject? The judge said, absolutely. And I said, it obviously was repaired because it's done several thousand miles, and it was 3 months later or 4 months later by the time we heard there had been an issue. If it was okay in the meantime, it was fixed. What's actually happened with the car then is something completely different in terms of symptoms than what we did before. And even then, I offered to look at the car if the claimant would get it to us. There was an olive branch. I was trying to meet them halfway, bearing in mind our responsibility was over by this point. And the claimant interjected, you didn't do this, you didn't fix it properly, it was a valve, it wasn't the pump, the reason the pump broke was because a valve was faulty, etc. I've paid £168 for diagnostics to figure this out. So again, I said, well, I'm sorry, but I still don't know what's wrong with the vehicle. No one shared any information with me whatsoever. You're just asking for £7,000 from me, 7 months and 7,000 miles down the line, and I don't even know what's happened. Bearing in mind, you're still driving the car and racking up miles that you're expecting me to buy back. So the judge said, oh, if you've had diagnostics done, then perhaps, you could send that to Barrow Motors so they could know exactly what's happening. To which the claimant responded, yeah, if they want to get diagnostics done, it'll be at their own cost. And the judge said, no, you have a diagnostics report. You could just share that with them, couldn't you? So they would know, oh, right, oh, yeah, I could do that. But it is now a week down the line since that hearing. I still haven't heard a single thing. So we will see. I haven't had a new hearing scheduled. I haven't had any information as far as diagnostics. And I haven't heard anything about whether the claimant has actually put anything to do with her auntie together or not. Hopefully they'll kind of figure out that, they're barking at the wrong tree here. I'm not responsible for this. And, I can't believe their repair was that much. And in fact, the interesting thing is they've had diagnostics done, which cost £168. I didn't get a chance to really ask in the hearing, but I wonder if it was just a valve and then an air pump, how much could it possibly have been? Because I think an air pump from TPS was about £300, plus, say, that's £200 of diagnostics, and fitting, let's say it came to £1,000. Why were they asking for £3,000 from me? That seems like it's just fraud, essentially. They're just trying to, blackmail me, like, if you don't pay up, we'll take you to court, which obviously I wasn't too worried about. I said, fine, take me to court, because I'd rather narrow it out. But I think the positive news was the judge wasn't, being silly about it and seemed to be being very reasonable. The only thing that he did suggest was that we get an independent expert look at the car, which we would split the cost of. I think supposedly that comes to about £400, and we split that cost to a couple of £100 each. An independent expert would look at the car and make an opinion on who's responsible, etc. Yeah, I don't really necessarily... We'll have to see when the hearing comes about, or if I hear any information about that, because I haven't. The judge hasn't ordered that that be the case. He did ask at the time, and I said, okay, fine. But considering I assume the claimant has now had the car repaired, and they are still driving it around, putting more miles on it, I'm not sure what there would be to test, because they've had it repaired, and there would be nothing to test. An independent inspector couldn't come along and say, oh yeah, that valve that's now being replaced must have been faulty at the time of sale. How anyone could come to that conclusion, I don't know. But I am kind of cautious of these independent vehicle inspectors. I've used them before, and they've gone and kind of like written off a car, basically, and then we've refunded a customer, and it's come back to us, and it was fine, no problems whatsoever. We've tested it fully, thoroughly, MOT checked, etc. Had it independently checked, and then sold it to someone else who's gone on and loved the car and had no issues with it whatsoever. So I am cautious of things like ACE, independent inspectors, I should say. So I don't know. I'm not even entirely sure it's going to get that far. If we've got any sense, the claimant will understand that they're pushing their luck a little bit, really, and they're unlikely to get anywhere with this claim. I certainly hope, anyway, because the evidence is on our side. We did repair it. If it wasn't repaired, then we would have heard long before 3 or 4 months. It's been MOT'd since they've put a claim against me, so it's obviously been fixed, and they haven't provided any information on how much it costs to get fixed or given me the option to pay that. Not that I would anyway. So yeah, I can't see how they've really helped themselves. They've bought it in someone else's name to hide money, etc., etc. So I wanted to give you an update because people keep asking, and I did say that the hearing was at the end of March, which it was, but it looks like we're probably going to have another hearing in about 3 weeks' time now, so towards the end of April. So, of course, I will keep you updated. Any more information comes through on that, I will do a whole new video when the next hearing comes about. In the meantime, keep your fingers crossed for me. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you are new here, please consider subscribing. Find out what happens later on down the line when we get back to court again. And if you're not new here, thank you for continuing to watch, and I will see you next time.